Okay, people, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this first, okay? It's November 16, 2019, and I'm finding myself in the kitchen. I'm working on food for Amari, Amari's side dish, okay? I have to, people, because it works best for him. I can simply go all day, do what I do, suck back my coffee, and basically not eat very much, if anything. And then at the end of the day, when I'm done, and I'm basically by myself and, and like for me, right? I, feed them and do whatever. I'm cleaning, I'm banging, right? I'm doing. And, oftentimes for me, that one major meal before I go to bed at night, whether it's 9 o'clock or 1 o'clock in the morning, it doesn't matter. I'll wolf down 3 eggs with, celery with cottage, what do you call that? Cheese whiz. Or lately I've been getting into my food storage and getting into my old cans of sardines. And I've been whacking back 2 sandwiches of sardines with a lot of mayonnaise mixed in with it with, maybe some cucumber or something off on the side. And I'm good to go, right? But that doesn't feed Amari during the day. Right? And, Andre, he eats what he eats, right? In terms of, he'll have sandwiches and bagels and apples and oranges and cereals and then, of course, whatever I'm cooking throughout the week he gets as well. And then, of course, Uncle Marcaine. So Amari is a special needs child that requires food that is, specifically designed for him, people. Do you remember when I did this? This is so good. He so likes this. All right? When I open it up in a jar like this, simply put it into the frying pan, bring it to a boil, right? Home canned, and then lower your heat and boil it for, low boil, right? For 10 minutes. That's the recommended time period, right? 10 minutes. Add in the extra water if you find that the water is evaporating, right? And then as you're doing that, though, as you can take your little potatoes, right, and you can cut them and put them in there. And as this is cooking for that 10-minute period on the heat, whatever you add in to this, right, works. And it cooks all at the same time. And this is enough with a little potato or, an extra carrot or whatever I want to put in there. This is pretty much a one serving for Amari, and he really likes it. And then if you have, a special needs child that needs extra fat, whether it's the avocado oil or the butter, right, you can add that in there in the frying pan at the same time. So these are the things that I have to think about, right, people? And I've got to make it where it's proficient, where it's easy on hand every day, and it's consecutive, right? And you have a choice. So basically, that's what I'm doing. I did say that I am changing my format. As you can see with my last 2 lives, especially the last one, I'm attempting to go in that direction, right? However, I like doing these food videos and stuff, people, because honestly, if I had a reason to stick around on this planet, this would probably be one of them, right? In terms of I have satisfaction knowing that I can send Tisha. You see Tisha, she just walks on by. She doesn't really take the time to make this stuff with me, right? Which is really unfortunate because in her mind, she thinks that when the time comes, she's going to know how to do it. And she really won't because she doesn't practice it with me. So it's going to be hard. Even if she was to watch my videos and try and learn it that way, it's a process in terms of being able to navigate around your kitchen, especially if it's small, to be able to do these things effectively. But, I have faith in my daughter that over time, as she ages, right, and the need becomes more strong for her to do this, she'll do it. But for now, you're stuck with me. That's what I'm trying to say. And because, I worry about what Amari's going to eat in 10 years from now, people. I really do, because I don't know where I'm going to be. When I'm doing stuff like this, I want to be around in 10 years from now. Okay? I want to be around for 40 years, 50 years, people, to make sure that Amari gets this kind of food. But realistically, I'm not going to be around in 40 years from now. Tisha will be. But will Tisha be doing this stuff? We know Tisha won't be doing YouTube videos, but the question is, will she be doing stuff like this? Because this is the stuff that Amari is going to need as he ages. The only difference is he's little, so we call him the baby still, right? So his proportion is small. But as he ages, those proportions are going to get larger. And because, again, you're dealing with special foods, right, that require, you know, special, you have to cook them a certain way in order to get them to the right consistency in terms of what he's able to chew or to digest, right? Like that last little side dish on the side, that plate as a whole was too much. You know, that's another thing I'm telling Tisha. Better to give in smaller proportions more throughout the day than larger proportions less throughout the day, right? So anyway, with that said, I really like this idea. You can freeze eggs. Actually, I just Googled it now to make sure I'm not misleading you, right? You can freeze eggs, believe it or not, whole. The only thing is, what's going to happen is the egg white somewhat loses its taste and it gets runny. But the egg yolk freezes, from what I understand, really well. If you scramble an egg and you freeze it, kind of like what I did with this last video I did in terms of Amari's side dish, this is good. This is good for up to 6 months, right? And in this case, when you're ready for it, you just take it out, let it sit on your counter or in the fridge for a little while so it softens up. So by the time you're ready to, it will just slide out of the jar, go into your frying pan, and because, you know, you just turn it on very low with a little bit of water to start, and you heat it up, and you're good to go. You don't even have to bring this to a boil. You just have to warm it up, people, because this is not home canned food. This is different, okay? This one you got to kind of cook for about 10 minutes just to ensure, but you have to bring it to a boil first, then bring it down. And if need to be, add more, what is it called? Water. And then sometimes Tisha will take my canned jars and she opens them up, and then she comes back and she'll say to me, when she takes them from me, right, so I can just work or do whatever I got to do, right? She says to me, oh, it doesn't taste like what she thinks she's going to open up and taste, because she's so used to opening up things from a can with their own whatever taste that these cans have that they come in with. So I tell her, well, first of all, Tisha, not everything is canned with salt. You know, depending on, especially meats and stuff like that, you know, you can't really make gravies. You know, you can somewhat flavor it, but it's just better to put your raw meat into a jar, because one time I gave her, you know, chicken, just straight up chicken, and she opened it up and she's like, you know, and it's, well, first of all, maybe it didn't, well, have sugar, or not sugar, salt. Maybe it didn't have salt. I don't think it's necessary. I'd have to read again. Anytime you're going to do canning, always double check and read. Because when you get into multiple canning of different things, there's different rules, right? And, you know, you're not a super brain, right? You have to, like, double check. So, with or without salt, you know, it's just the salt. It's not the actual seasoning, the gravy, the flavoring. And this is what I told her, right? This one here is a little more flavorful because the stock itself was made from turkey bones. And then I bought ground turkey and did that separate, right? And then combined the two with a few bits of carrots in there. Right, so the only thing that this thing really needs is a few pieces of either a yam, fresh yam, or a potato, and you cook it at the same time. So, what I'm trying to say is, you know, I got to build up on my stock for Amari, because Tisha's like, I want more stuff, Mom. What do we have, Mom? And I'm like, well, okay, I'll get on it, right? So I'm kind of getting on it a little bit today. So what we're going to do is we're going to use these today. Okay, I'm not rushing with my videos. It is what it is, right? I'm going to use, I have a choice. This time, instead of using butter to do these, I'm either going to spray them down with that, which is a canola oil, or I'm going to spray them down with that. I'm just going to see how that works, right? In terms of like just and then get on with your whatever you're going to do. I've got sitting in a pot here that's already starting to sprout. Really, I need to get out into the yard next week and at least throw a few of these into the ground so I get an early crop in the spring, right? But these are my potatoes from the yard that's been sitting in a pot on the floor since I pulled them out of the ground. So today is the day where I'm just going to take the whole pot and I'm basically going to clean them. I'm not even going to take off all the peels because these are organic. And there's not that much in here, but there's enough in there to make, well, I know. Anyway, it's just a handful, right? There's enough there to make the potato that I want, because what I'm going to do is maybe two things. I'm going to do double batches. My jar situation, I have to buy more jars, this size specifically, right? Because this is a good size to work with. But I'm going to work with what I have today. So I'm going to use as many of these as I got left. And then I'm going to have to go into this size. Right? Because if you have this size and you combine it with this, now you're getting into a proportion pretty much that Amari can handle, except for maybe not so much of the turkey. Right? It depends because you're adding this in. It will be full. Right? But again, you know, he's growing. So in another year from now, these two jars coming in, whether one's canned and one's frozen, and this is what I'm trying to tell you. Some things are canned. Some things come in frozen. Some things come in fresh. In this case, for convenience and on the fly, whether it's for Tisha or for me, it doesn't matter. Right? Open this up. Take this out of the freezer. Just let it sit for a while. Don't run it under water unless it's cold water, because Tisha come along and she took something out of the freezer and she ran it under hot water and she cracked the jar. So the whole thing went out in the jar. You never take out the food unless it's feeding it to a cat, and even then, just chuck it out because you never know when you're going to get a little teeny shard in there, right? So it's not worth the risk. So anyway, when you take it out, just let it unthaw for half an hour to an hour, just enough for it to come down, or you can run it under cold water to loosen it, so that after it's ready to come out, frozen or unfrozen, whichever, you put it into your little pan, and then I would start this first though, and then I would put this in after the fact. Because this one you have to cook for at least a good 10 minutes, right, to some degree, where this one, you just need to warm it up, right? But between the two of them, they make a complement. And then as the baby grows, right, you know, you just increase your jar size, right? You go into the next jar up, right? For this kind of stuff, right? Because again, like, you know, for me, 2 sardine sandwiches at the end of the day, right, with, you know, a couple of boiled eggs, glass of milk, I'm good to go, people. Like, seriously, I'm good to go. But I can't be running to the kitchen 3 times, 4, 5 times a day and cooking up these little meals in these little frying pans independently throughout the day, because I would be here all day. Because if anyone spends any amount of time cooking, they would know that you can spend 12 hours in a day, 7 hours a week in the kitchen between doing dishes, preparation, and cooking, and then just the whole 9 yards, and then start preparing for the next day for a family. You have to remember, I raised 5 kids, and Uncle John was there, right? I was there, so I went through a lot of food, and there was days I was in the kitchen like 12 hours a day, people. I'd get up and I'd be all day in the kitchen. You know, I'm still baking at 10 o'clock at night, right? The cakes and everything for the next day, right? And then you get up and you start again. Well, those days are over for me, but I'm kind of in those days because of Amari. Andre's a little more flexible. You know, he can feed himself. Alea May likes her finger food. The stuff that I made for Amari, she didn't really like it. And she's picky anyway. But Tisha says she prefers trying to feed herself with finger food. Right? And, you know, So that's fine. But Amari, he needs that. Well, we know that there's turkey broth in there, which has marrow, bone marrow, right? Any kind of broth, right? We know that there's actual turkey in there, right? If you really want to take it one step further, you can make sure it's organic turkey versus just ground turkey, depending on your income. The point is it's got its protein. There's carrots in there, right? The salt content is just slightly controlled. You've got your remnants coming in from whatever you were stewing your turkey broth in terms of your garlic juices and onion juices and your celery juices, because that all goes into the soup pot, right? With that button. It starts off with the one button, right? A button soup. And so, to add in the carbs, I guess you call them. I guess this is a carb or something. I don't know. Fiber, right? Right? And, you pull this out of the cupboard, and the last thing you want to do is start peeling this kind of stuff and boiling it. I mean, you can, but it might be just more easier or straight up or whatever. Or this could be like a complimentary food to a meal that you make for your family. Like, for example, you put in a roast, whether it's beef roast, it could be roast chicken, or it could be pork roast, right? The point is you get the broth at the bottom of your roasting pan. That is good for Amari, right? And in a situation like that, after you put your roast in the fridge, let's just say, for example, and you ate, and you know how at the bottom you get the gelatin? Well, the next day, you can simply just go into the fridge, grab this, put it into a pot, take up some of that broth, and scoop it in with the frying pan so it cooks with this. It doesn't always have to necessarily be this way. But, the cost of food is so expensive. So the things that I used to feed my family on a regular basis all the time, one, there's not enough people around to eat it now. Two, it's so unaffordable in terms of how much you're paying just for a simple roast, depending on the type of roast in terms of beef, pork, or even chicken for that matter. You pay $14 just for a freaking roasting hen. Like, come on, like, that's ridiculous, right? And, $23, $35 for a little freaking roast like this, like beef, right? Pork roast, well, it depends where you find it, but, even then they're pushing up, right? And if you're looking for organic, it's even more expensive. So this is what I'm just trying to say. So that's what I'm going to do today, right? I'm not going to stress out too much about anything. I'm just, this stuff with my eyes is just out of control, man. It's kind of pathetic. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do it differently today with this. You've seen I'm going to spray it down first just to see how it comes out. And then I'm going to boil up the potatoes to some degree. I'm going to mash them. And then I'm going to either crack my eggs and separate the whites from the yolk, right? And, I don't know. Maybe I'll cook the yolks separate. I'm going to try maybe different, right? Cook the yolks because they're high in protein, right? Cook the yolk separate, whether it's scrambled or not. And then put the potato, this is what I want to do, put the potato in, but you see you kind of need the white, right, to bring it together. So anyway, let's just say I'm going to scramble the egg, put some egg in there, scrambled egg, put the potato in there, right? Probably use a bit of cottage cheese in with the egg or whatever, and then cook it, cool it, put it into the jar, and then freeze it for on those days when I don't got time to start, or maybe I don't have this in the house. People run out of potatoes, whatever it is. There's that day when you can just simply go grab one of these things from your storage food area, right? And this one from your freezer, and you can combine the two, and you can make a really wonderful meal for your special needs child, or for maybe an elderly person who need their food soft, people, in order to be able to eat it. because not everybody has teeth to chew. Not everybody can chew. Right? That's just the way it is. So, and don't ever think that you just make a mental note of it. You may not need to do this in your life. Let me tell you something. And then I'm going to click out and then I'm going to get into this, right? I had 5 kids, right? And I've already mentioned this through message, through comments on one of my videos to one of the members that come to this channel. I had 5 children, people, and for any woman that's been pregnant, there's always something in the back of your mind. You worry that maybe your child will have a genetic defect, or maybe you had one drink too many and now you're all worried because you didn't know you were pregnant, or you fell off the roof and you bounced around until you landed into one spot, and then you went next week to the doctor and found out you were pregnant. Who knows, right? It could be anything, right? You always worry giving birth, right? Your child gets injured at birth, and then you're going to be subject to having to raise a disabled child for the rest of your life, right? Not their life, because they'll probably outlive you, right? And that's the scary part for me, people, because I'm not 21. I'm not 22 like Shmei when she had him. If she was alive, I would feel much more secure with the whole situation, because she would be with him for the duration of his life. Unless, of course, he lived to 75, and then she passed, she could live to 104 and still be around, right? And they'd go together. But if she was around, there's more guarantee that she would have been there to raise him. Versus, we don't know when the lights are going to go out for me, people. Seriously, we don't. And the only time I have real incentive to just want to be here, okay, it's maybe stuff like this. I just hope that Tisha picks up on it, because Shemai's not here to do it. And Tisha tends to be a bit of a scatterbrain, spends too much time on the phone. She's not paying attention to me, so I worry, right? But she uses this, and she really likes it, and because it really works well for her, there's that incentive for her to do it. So even though, what I'm trying to say is, even though that maybe you find that you don't need to do this because there's no special need child in your life, or there's no elderly person in your life that requires this kind of pampering, I guess you could say, or specialty food, whatever you want to call it, doesn't mean that you're not going to wake up one day and find yourself in that situation like me. I raised all my 5 kids, people. I picked up tons of toys. I found socks where socks should never be, right? I've done my midnight moves in terms of moving furniture around and vacuuming, and my midnight cleans. I've spent my 12 hours in the kitchen day after day after day after day, and I'm like, geez, Dawn, I'm in here every fucking day between 10 to 12 hours a day. Like, wow, that's when I was really into the homeschooling, and I was just home, people. I was like hardcore homeschool mom, and I had the 5 kids and Uncle John, and like I was in the kitchen all the time. And when I wasn't in the kitchen, then I'd go into my midnight cleans, and Uncle John, we'd go into our midnight moves and start moving furniture around, and and like I'm finding myself right back at it. Only there's more urgency around it now, because Amari can't scoot on by like a little Leia May can, like Andre did. I'm actually having now to move things out in order to be able to, in the future, to accommodate moving him maybe in a wheelchair or whatever, right? Do you see what I'm saying? As well as extra laundry, and toys and bottles and jars, right? Like I need to move just so I can have cupboards for a bottle and jars, right? Amari is starting to drink a little bit out of a cup, but I think he'll always drink. Tisha and I figure, he'll always drink out of a bottle to some degree, because that's where he gets the most of his liquid, right? It's just much easier for him. Giving it to him this way, he can only tolerate it for so long, like drinking, right, from a cup. He can only tolerate it for so long, and his liquid intake isn't as much as it would be in a bottle. So these are the things you don't think about when you're starting a family outside of, oh, I hope it never happens to me. And then you raise your family and it never happened to you, and you thought you were safe and you didn't have to struggle with that, and you know what I mean? And then boom, one day you wake up and either you have a child with special needs or you inherit a child with special needs. And so don't underestimate what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Take it as like, I'm just trying to, provide some sort of outlet if you ever find yourself in this position where you get overwhelmed with the piddly end of the individual meals, when you can do it this way and bring in quality meals and you can adjust it as you go along. Like this is that beef broth, right? This is the beef broth that I made, that I specifically made sure that it had a little extra fat in it. You can see that. And the bone marrow in there. This cooked up into a frying pan, heated up, and then at the last 4 or 5 minutes or whatever it is, right, I'd let this unthaw first with the potato and the egg or whatever I'm going to do with this today. But as this is already cooking, add a little extra water, whatever it is, just keep it at a level where you like it. And then you can just simply put that into the frying pan right next to it, and you have a very, very, very nutritional meal. Because it's so important, people. It is so important to not get overwhelmed with this stuff. So these videos are important. Okay? So I'm just... And again, it for me, it kind of keeps me on this planet. In terms of, if I had a will to live, this would be one of them, right? In terms of, because I miss Shemaine, right? I am so overwhelmed with this whole situation, people. Like, it's not, you can't even fathom how it even can be a reality for me, but it is. So I'm trying to just work around it, right? And then, what you're going to see, maybe after this, or I'll put Amari first in with him being happy. Right? I'll put this first, and then I'm going to put what I did already with Amari in the bedroom, and then I caught him over here in the living room in terms of how he talks and tells you, how he tells you that he's happy, people. Okay? Because you have to remember, I come into contact with doctors, different doctors that just come out of nowhere. Oftentimes, they're from countries from, 50,000 miles away. Right? They come from just wherever they come from. And this is the first time I'm meeting them. And, they're like, well, why is he not talking? You need to go to speech therapy. Well, first of all, he's got cerebral palsy. You know that many children with his problems can't talk. Right? So why are you getting upset with me because Amari can't talk to you, who happens to be a stranger? Right? Never met you in my life, but yet you're telling me that I'm not doing a good enough job because my grandson isn't speaking to your expectations, to which you don't even know what really those expectations are, because you don't really know as a doctor what he's capable of. So I get it. That's gaslighting. I get this gaslighting, right? And it's not just from one person. It's, I'm seeing the hip specialist. I'm seeing the neurologist. He's getting MRIs, right? And then there's the x-ray. And then it's the pediatrician. And now it's the dentist. And then it's this. And then it's the physiotherapist. And then they wanted to send me to put him on medication because Tisha mentioned that, he drools, right? And I'm like, you know, and the doctor, yeah, you know, we got no problem. We'll give you medication for that. And, you know, and I'm like, well, what's the symptom? Oh, dry mouth. Well, yeah, we know what happens. You dry out the mouth and they don't necessarily drool. But is that a good thing? I reminded Tisha that Uncle John drooled. Okay? That was just Uncle John. Uncle John drooled not because he wanted to drool, but because of the way his mouth was formed, people. Okay? And the way his teeth were in his mouth. So from time to time, he would drool, right? Because you're right, if your mouth is not sitting correctly in terms of being closed or whatever, just, you know, being cognitive, right? It is what it is, right? As he aged, obviously, it got worse as he aged, right? And it would, you know, fluctuate, right? And it was just something that I had, like, I used to go around wiping up his drool spots all the time. Go into my videos. I complained about it, people. But that was Uncle John. I lived with him for 23 years like that, okay? Well, it's going to be like that kind of with Amari, right? Because sometimes he drools and sometimes he doesn't, depending on what he's doing. If he's playing with his tongue and making sounds and doing all that, being, you know, whatever, yeah, he's going to tend to drool more. But he doesn't drool to the point where he needs to be medicated. And I need to remind Tisha of this. I need to remind Tisha of this, people. I say, look, don't be so quick to put him on medication just because a doctor says so, right? Another example. Because of the cerebral palsy, there's certain parts of his body, especially on the right side, where he gets stiff, right? So you do exercises with him to help release his muscles for him because he can't do it, right? And because we weren't being rough enough about it because we didn't want to hurt him, and he never complains in terms of he's not in pain, right? You know, it wasn't a priority to rush him off to the doctor and put him on medication, like a medication to dry out his mouth. Now they want to put him on a medication to release, you know, to relax his muscles because then what it does is it makes it so that we don't have to exercise him as much, right? We don't have to go around wiping up his drool as much if his mouth is dry all the time. But there's consequences to that, and this is what I told Tisha. You don't want him having a dry mouth, okay? Right? So I got doctors trying to pressure me to put him on medication, one, to dry out his mouth, only because of the occasional drooling, or two, to put him on medication to relax his muscles, when in fact, you know, just need to do a little more exercising with him and get more proficient at it, right? And this is what I told this neurologist. Well, all you're doing is now because he told me to both, and I'm like, no, he doesn't need it. He's not crying. He's happy. You know, he's a very happy child, right? You're going to start compounding these medications on him, one medication, and then another medication, and then another medication. Before you know it, people, he'll be on like 5, 6, 7, 8 different kind of medications, and he won't be the same little boy that you'll see in the video. Is he perfect? Obviously not, right? And that's the thing. You will have perfect children when they come out of your womb as a mother, or testicles as a father, right? In terms of you have a baby, the baby's born, they got all the 5 fingers, they don't have Down syndrome, you know, they didn't get injured at birth, they didn't, whatever it is, the baby appears to be normal, right? And you have, you know, you have a somewhat normal family with, you know, somewhat functioning children, and you think you're safe in terms of you don't have to worry about dealing with a special needs child, and then all of a sudden you find yourself in that predicament, right? The last thing you're going to want to do is start doping them up with a bunch of medication to make it easy on you. Because I said, Tisha, it's simple. All we have to do is make some bibs, right? Specifically for Amari. He doesn't have to wear them all the time. But we could make something where it actually just kind of take a little strap and you just run it like that, where it snaps in the back so it kind of holds it there. right? If it's that much of a problem for you. For you, Tisha. Not for Amari, but for you. And then I remind her, well, we lived with Uncle John for 23 years, so I'm sure if we could cope with Uncle John, we can sure cope with Amari, because I'm not going to take one medication, add on another medication, add on another medication, so that I'm going to find myself in an MRI from now, assuming that I'm alive in 10 years, right? To find out what the fuck is wrong with him, because he's on like 8 different medications. He's on no medications right now, people. They're putting him through an MRI for protective medicine. I don't even think if you take it to a court of law that there is such a thing to be acknowledged as protective medicine. It's normally called defensive medicine. Are these neurologists really protecting Amari, or is it defensive medicine? They want to prevent something perhaps 20 years from now. As they're saying, here, take this medication, and the doctor's like, I'll give you the number for the clinic. Come on. And I'm like, no, it's okay. I'll Google it if I want. Right? Because I don't see it as a necessity at this point. Especially if you can build up their immune systems through good food. Amari hardly ever gets sick. Like, seriously, he doesn't get that many colds. He was getting more colds when he was being picked up and transported around 3 days a week. For whatever reason, he was coming down with more colds. But when he's stationary at home, people, he really doesn't get that many colds. We're kind of on pins and needles right now because he has his MRI on Thursday. And after we went and seen the neurologist, what happened to Andre the next day? He came down with this mini little cold that kind of like stuck around for the day. And I'm like, oh my God, that's the last thing I need is for Amari, to get a cold right before the MRI. But I phoned them and they said if for some reason he does, no worries, no panic. You can simply cancel the MRI. It's not an emergency, people. This is being protective medicine. They don't like to classify it as defensive medicine. So we can reschedule if he gets a cold, right, for this MRI. But outside of that, he's a pretty healthy little kid. And I just want to up the ante. That's what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to up the ante. And while I'm doing it, I'm showing you that if you ever find yourself in my position, 60 years old, running around picking up toys, finding socks where socks don't belong, doing tons and tons of dishes, laundry piling up, that kind of stuff, having to cook for a special needs child on top of everything else that you do in a day as a 60-year-old woman that inherits children, because there's a lot of women out there and men who are inheriting their grandchildren for whatever reason, and not all of them come in a perfect package. Some of them come in damaged and disabled. So this is why it's important that I keep up with these videos in terms of Amari's side dish, right? And then at some point try and make myself a little actual cookbook. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, and to put it in writing, right? So that, I might not be able to be around in 10 years from now, but those things will stay behind, right? And hopefully by that time, with another 10 years added on to Tisha's age, she'll be 31, she'll be more mature. She should be more interested in actually learning how to do these things, right? Right now, she knows I do it, so she doesn't really have to do it, right? But she likes it, though. She wants it done, right? So as things get moved around, I already told her, as things get whatever, and we've got more space, you're going to be doing it, because I'm not going to be here all the time. And it's really sad that his mother is not here to do these things for him, people. So I want to show you my cast iron frying pans. Maybe what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload this now, because it takes a long time to convert. Well, not that long, but long enough. And maybe we'll just do the side dish separate, okay? All right, we'll do the side dish separate. So you know what I'm going to do with that? I'm going to spray those down, right? But look at this. See that? No, hold on. What's going on? Battery's running low. Got to get on with it. Look at that beautiful... This is the one I wanted to show you. I have a nice big one. Beautiful big bean pot one that I could actually even put outside on the fire. But anyway, this one here is good for stewing tomatoes. Right? So if you can find something like that for yourself to stew tomatoes in for the day kind of thing, this is how you introduce iron into your diet. Whether it's for you, an elderly person that needs it, or whether it's for a small child. Or anybody for that matter that just needs extra iron. So this one's going back in the freezer, right? You can see what's going on there. I just brought these out to show you. I'm gonna put that back. That's the beef broth with the marrow and everything in it, right? Okay, this one here, maybe I'll open up this one later. And since I'm doing all this stuff, I thought maybe I'd just, for the fun of it, open up this jar from 2014. You can see, look how nice that is. Hold on. Look how nice that is, people. See, my uncles used to can. They'd can salmon. And boy, oh boy, was it ever good. So it was my uncles, actually. My Uncle Nick, my Uncle Harry, and my grandfather, who kind of instilled at a very early age the canning process. But it was Uncle John who said, let's do it with the pressure canner. Don't be afraid. If we blow off the roof, it will be like the good old days.
Where's my gobbly smiles? Where's my gobbly smiles? I want my gobbly smiles. I want my gobbly smiles. Come on. You'll sing to Nana. You were just singing. I am going to catch you singing today.
Yes, I am. I'm catching you singing today. And where's my little goobly smiles?
Where's those gobbly smiles? Huh? Where are they? Where did they go?
Where did they go? Where did they go? My googly smiles. Where, oh where did they go?
Blowing bubbles. Goobly bubbles. Where's my goobly bubbles? Come on. What kind of noise is that?
What kind of noise is that? Huh? Is that a new noise? That's a new noise. Huh? What you doing? Have you discovered a new sound? What kind of noise is that? Okay, put your tongue inside.
Put your tongue inside. Keep your tongue inside. Come on, you are singing to me. Where's my songs?
Now you're just blowing bubbles. Now you're just blowing bubbles. Amari's blowing bubbles. Amari is blowing bubbles.
Mr. Bubble is your little goobly bubbles. Googly goobly buggles. Right. Right.
Is it right? Say yes, Nana. That's right. That's what I want to hear is you happy. Happy, happy, happy. What are you saying to me? Yeah? You talking? This is how you talk sometimes. Mm-hmm. Say happy. Happy. Happy, happy, happy. Happy.
Happy.
Happy, happy. Happy, happy. Happy, happy. Amari is happy. Happy, happy. Amari is happy. Happy, 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 happy. Say happy. Yeah, we know you get loud. Yeah, we know you get loud. Where did your little toy go to?
Where did it go?
Here. Come on. He's pretty good at using his left hand. You're a lefty. Yeah, you're a lefty. Are you my little lefty? Here, let's try and use the other hand. Come on.
Come on, come on, come on, come on.
He doesn't like it touched.
Come on, come on, come on, come on. Grab on. Grab on. Don't fight with Nana. Come on. Come on, take it. Take it. Come on. Come on, grab on. There you go. Oh, you got it. Amari, where did it go? Come on. Oh, you got it. Yay, Amari's got it. And oh, come on. Hang on to it. Come on.
Happy. You are happy. Amari is happy. Happy, 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 happy. Say happy. Nana, I'm happy. Nana, I'm happy. 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 Nana, I'm happy. Happy, happy, happy. Happy, happy, happy. Happy Amari. Amari is happy. Yeah, happy. Okay, you ready to come up? Come on. Come on, try and help. Come on, you gotta help me. I know you can see me put my arms to you.
Come on, you gotta try and help me. Come on.
You ready? You ready? Let's go.
Oh, come on, try. There we go.
Ah, yeah. There we go. Come on. Let's go. Yeah? Yeah? Are you happy now? Huh? What's going on? What is that? Are you a camera ham? Do you know? Do you know? Do you know something's up? Huh? What's up? What's up? What's up? What you trying to say to me? Huh? You ready? Okay, come on, let's go. Let's go, let's go. Come on. We go slow. Yes. Happy, happy. We go slow. We take our time so we get to where we need to go. Happy, happy. We go slow. We take our time so we always get to go where we need to. Happy, 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 happy. Mr. Shy now. That's the way I'm holding him.
get to the bottom of who's kicking whose butt.
I'm sorry, Bernard. Of course, you're right. Use a breather. Too hard. For me, the only normal thing in my crazy upside down world.
To be normal. Roxanne,
Yes?
say I wasn't so normal. Say I was bald and had the complexion of a popular primary color as a random, non-specific example. Would you still enjoy my company?
You don't judge a book by its cover or a person from the outside.
Oh, that's a relief to hear.
You judge them based on their actions.
Well, that seems kind of petty, don't you think? What? Oh! Don't look at me! Just a technical glitch. Don't look yet. Well, find that. Ow! Where were we? Now, hold on.
You!
I can explain. What about everything you just said? About judging a book by its cover?
Well, let's take a look at the context, shall we? You destroyed the man, you took over the city, and then you actually got me to care about you.
What's going on?
Possibly hope to gain.
What you doing? What is it that you're doing?
I don't believe this.
Huh? No, no, no.
Do you really think that I would ever be with you?
What you doing, little guy? Huh? Yeah, it's coming. It's coming to get you. What's going on? What's going on in there, Amari?
What's the camera?
Ah, what's going on? I hear you. Oh, I'm just getting him, just the way he likes to talk. That's what's happening here. Right? Right, Amari? When you talking? Where's your little book? What happened to your little book? There was a little book in here. Where did it go? Well, there's that. Yeah, you like that. Uh-huh. Here. What are you doing? Do you want it? Come on, there's your little cup. Yeah.
Don't
Whoa.
forget to get some grapes.
That's your cup.
No?
Ah, just
Don't forget
please.
grapes.
Yeah. Maybe now. What happened to him? There he is. He moved himself. Sometimes you're a Houdini baby.
No, look, he's sitting.
Yeah, he's sitting up nice. If we leave him on the couch unattended, and you're not careful, you're going to find him on the floor over there, and you don't hear a peep. Very seldom will he come off the couch, but once in a blue moon, he's a Houdini baby.
Yep.
Yeah, one time he bumped his head, but for the most part, I don't know. I don't know what he does, and you come in 5 minutes later thinking he's on the couch. Yeah, thinking you're on the couch, and you're over there. Yeah, so Andre likes to stay close to him. Right, that's what's happening here right now. Right. You know. So anyway, we'll be back.